Produced by Victoire. Victoire gives a special thanks to the EWF, Empire Wrestling Federation, and Mr. Jesse Hernandez. Hi again. Welcome back to Power and Glory. You're seeking the truth in professional wrestling, then you have come to the right place. Your entire cast will be back with you today. Do not fret. But for now, ladies and gentlemen, I am one of your co-stars, the Master Amir, along with my co-star, ladies and gentlemen. He is a former WWE, WCW legend. Ladies and gentlemen, he is a tag team specialist. He is Mr. Pretty Paul Roma.
Well, I appreciate that, Amir. Great intro. Appreciate the pretty.
Yep, of course.
And let's not forget our other co-host, Mario Mancini.
Yep, Mario Mancini. We are awaiting him, Paul. We are awaiting him. Yep, I have yet to see, and I'm still looking for him.
Listen, he's a big deal. You know, he's well educated, cake maker. You know, I mean, celebrity, you can't rush perfection, right?
No,
it takes time.
It does take time. You can't rush perfection. Like you said, Paul, he is a master cheesecake maker. He is part of the WWE alumni from the golden era, the greatest era of pro wrestling. So, I mean, he's a celebrity personified. So we will be awaiting him. But Paul, before we begin today, what do our fans need to do?
Well, you know, like always, and sometimes they forget, but we have a lot of new fans, so I'm sure that they don't know. They need to just march over, just an arm reach away, and hit that subscribe button.
That's
huge.
Right.
Really helps us, helps the cause, and we want to stay on. We want to keep talking. We want to keep bringing all this news to you. So, you know what? It's not asking that much to hit that subscribe button. We appreciate it.
Absolutely. We appreciate that. Make sure that you powerplex that subscribe button and also hit those likes and share with your friends and family. That greatly helps us too. You know, we love producing this content for you, but we need your help. Like I said, we want to be the #1 wrestling podcast out there in the entire world, and you'll be part of us. You know, because if you're a subscriber, you'll be there with us. I also want to bring to everyone's attention, Paul, that if they do want to support our channel all the more, they can use the Cash App. It's the $ Masters of Wrestling. You can also hit us with a super sticker, a super chat, or a super gift. Those are greatly appreciated. And of course, to support us, we have the Power and Glory, the podcast t-shirts. They are available. They are $45, including shipping within the United States. If you're interested, drop us an email with your size, your address, and then we'll give you the information. You can either Zelle us or Cash App us, but we'll have to do that privately. Of course, we want to share people's information across line willy-nilly.
Yeah, right.
Absolutely not. So it's been a crazy week, Paul. It's been a sad week for many in the world of professional wrestling because the unexpected passing of Sabu, which ironically reminded me of the passing of the Ultimate Warrior, because the Warrior came back after tons of years of absence. And what was it? About a week later, he passed away. So it's the same kind of story with Sabu. He had that final match. We were both there at WrestleCon in Vegas. He was there in Vegas. He had the last a brutal match, which we'll get into with Joey Janela. But yeah, Sabu passed away at 60, Paul.
Yeah, really sad. You know, an icon. I differentiate, and I want to explain this. So, you know, a great wrestler, not a technical wrestler as far as, you know, what I consider technical, but again, he was over. Everybody knew of him. Did he take it a bit far? If you saw the match, I think yes. I think that was part of the demise that you know brought this upon him at a relatively early age.
Yep.
Yeah, it's really sad. I mean, you know, a guy like that could have gone in the ring and gotten away with this, you know, his famous point. And the people would have loved it.
Yeah.
And he could have done a couple things. I don't think he had to go to that extreme to where I think he hurt himself, and that
Hmm.
injury carried, you know, with him for those next few hours, and he passed away, and
Yeah.
it's really sad
Yeah.
that happened.
I think you hit the nail on the head. And Paul, you know this, and many people of your generation know this. You know, less is best. You don't have to break your body in half in order to entertain the crowd, right? And again, you know, not to say Sabu did this. I want to clarify that. But some of the new younger guys, it's not gymnastics, it's pro wrestling, right? So,
Right,
you know, there is you can make a headlock work for a couple of minutes. Be creative. Think about it.
right.
But to your point about Sabu, I concur. I greatly, I think that that last match contributed greatly to, what made him pass. Um,
Yeah, yeah, and again, I understand though.
mhm,
On the flip side, I understand um, who he is
mhm.
and what he had to bring to the table because that's what he does for his fans.
Yeah, yeah.
So it's very difficult for him to go out there and half-ass it. He had to go out there and give them what Sabu gives them.
Hmm.
And unfortunately, it was a bit much. I mean, the Bob Wire, right?
Yeah. Barbed
Um,
wire.
Taking the bump from the ring down to the floor. I'm
Hmm.
sure that had to, pay uh, play a big part in it.
Yep. Well, we know when you have a huge impact, that ricochets through your rib cage. That impacts your heart, right?
Yeah,
All the organs are moving when you slam that hard. I just saw, don't know if you saw it, Paul. Dark Side of the Ring just put out an episode with Mick Foley regarding Hell in a Cell and the damage that Mick has done. I mean, obviously, you're no stranger to Mick. The damage he's done to his body, they said the effects on his brain, it's like a ticking time bomb. You never know when he's just going to suddenly wake up and forget who he is or who his kids are. It's sad. It's sad that some people felt that they had to go to that extreme, every pun intended, in order to make the fans.
right. No,
Yeah.
okay. I agree with you.
Mm,
There's a couple sides though to it all. You have and I hope our fans don't take this as a knock. It may sound like a knock, but it
mm,
really isn't. So while Mankind, Cactus Jack, is a good entertainer,
yeah.
okay, he's not a good wrestler.
Right.
So for him to what we call get over, to appease the people, he can't go in the ring and technically wrestle with somebody because he just can't.
Right.
So falling off a cage, falling through a cage, falling off the apron to the concrete floor, taking these wacky, crazy bumps, that's what got him over.
Hmm.
And his character, that's what got him over. I don't think Sabu had to do what he did, especially this last match.
Mm-mm.
But that's what the people expected to see from him.
Yeah.
I get it.
Hmm.
If I go into a match, people are going to want to see me walk up the ropes backwards and drop that big elbow from the top.
Yeah.
Am I going to do it? Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm going to do it
Yeah.
because that's what they're used to seeing. That's what
Yeah.
they want to see. That's what they're waiting to see.
It's a
So I
trademark.
do understand all of what Sabu did.
Hmm.
I do understand, but he could wrestle.
Yeah. Yeah.
I I I do understand what Mankind did or Cactus Jack did because he couldn't wrestle.
Hmm.
If he wasn't lighting himself on fire, there was no entertainment value, no factor there.
Yeah. Yeah.
He had to go to extremes because he was limited to
Hmm.
what he can do.
Hmm.
And when somebody's limited and you have somebody like a Vince McMahon who is enjoying, who's a sadistic piece of garbage, who is enjoying this at the other person's expense, at the other person's damage that he's doing to his body. Sure, Vince is giving him money,
Hmm.
but Vince is also walking up to him and going, "Hey, great job." And under his breath, he's going, "You're an idiot."
Champions. They're not born in the gym. It starts from the inside and it works its way out. Do you feel it more difficult to obtain muscle? Are you tired or perhaps depressed? Then there's a solution. Our brand new partner and sponsor, Care Aesthetics of La Quinta, are here to help you get restored to optimal health. Just use the contact information in this video and schedule your free consultation. Be sure to mention the name of the podcast, whether that be Power and Glory, Styling, Masterclass, or Hey Roma, when doing so. We wish you all the best in your road to optimized health. And now, back to the show.
Under his breath, he's going, "You're an idiot."
Yeah.
And I'm glad you're an idiot and you're doing this stuff for me because you're getting me ratings.
Yep.
Your body's getting busted up. Chances are you're going to die one of these times jumping off the cage. I don't care because he probably took out insurance on your life. So he's going to make money regardless off of you. One way or the other, he's making money off of you.
Very
But
true.
again, this is Jack's claim to fame. That's what his legacy is.
Mm-hmm.
That's what he's going to be known for.
Yep.
That's just how it is.
Very true. And by the way, Paul, while you were talking there, our resident cheesemaker extraordinaire, which by the way, Mario, need I remind you, there's a cheesecake that needs to be shipped in this direction, which is yet.
And you know what? I had gotten something special for my daughter for Mother's Day.
Okay.
And it came with dry ice packs, and you're the first guy I thought of.
Wow. I'm honored.
So,
thank you, Mario. I appreciate it. Because Tink was just mentioning that the other day because, by the way, Paul, she's got the billboards, the posters ready that we had at WrestleCon. They're boxed up, shipped, and ready to go. So we just need the address. You can give me that text message after we go. So we've got both of those. Mario.
Thank her.
Yes, I will. Mario, what took you so long?
Work.
Oh. I thought it was
Mario,
a celebrity
tell him
engagement.
The truth, Mario. Tell him the truth.
Work.
Mario, tell him the truth, Mario.
Work. Oh, you know what I did? I worked and I ran over to the school to see the setup. Told the guys I'd be back at about 8:30 and then hit the highway and came here. That's what I did.
Cool, man. Yeah, you've got a big show tonight, and anyone who's up there in the Connecticut area, I encourage you, go and check out a Paradise Alley wrestling event. When's the next one? So they have some time to plan for it. When's the next event you guys got?
June 7th. That's at the school, and then June 21st is in Middletown, Connecticut.
Okay. Couple of big shows. Mario, we were talking about the passing of Sabu, and then we inadvertently went over to the Dark Side of the Ring episode of Mick Foley.
You know what, you guys, I have to tell you something. If you told me to pick a number between 1 and 2, I'd say 2, and you'd go, no, 1. 3 and 4, I'd go 4, and you'd go, no, 3. 5 and 6, I'd go 5, you'd go, no, 6. What I mean by that is last night I watched The Sheik and I watched Tony Atlas.
Okay.
I did not watch Mick Foley. But I will probably watch that tonight along with Billy Jack Haynes. Mick Foley, without even watching The Dark Side of the Ring. For the fans, this is the way I see Mick Foley. A nice guy, paid his dues. I mean, was a big independent guy for a long time. But I see Mick Foley as great for the fans, an innovator in wrestling, and fantastic for the fans. Horrible for the boys. Horrible for the inside the wrestling business. Why? Because he raised a bar to somewhere that we don't believe in. Roma and I don't believe in that. And the reason why we don't believe in that is because we were raised by Strongbow. And we were raised by Pat Patterson. And I tell the story, this has to be the 100th time I told the story on a podcast. And I think Roma might have been there that night too. So there were fly-by-night jobbers, right? Fly-by-night jobbers that I still respect,
Mhm.
and they're not jabronis. Um, but this kid came in and he's working with Warrior, and he said, "Look, man, press me over your head and throw me out of the ring." And Jimmy's like, "Why you hold on to the top rope?" He's like, "No, throw me out right over the top rope onto the floor." And he goes, "No, I don't."
And mind you, that's a concrete floor. There's no padding.
Right.
Right. He goes, "No, I don't want to do that." "No, no, it'll look great. It'll look great." "No, I don't want to do that." "No, no, no, it'll look great." Jimmy goes, "Okay." So he goes out there, he presses the guy, throws him over the top rope onto the floor. Everybody in the dressing room didn't flip out in a good way. They weren't angry. They were more like, "What an idiot."
Yeah.
The crowd went nuts. The crowd went nuts over that. But my second father was right there to greet him before he stepped foot into the dressing room where he was sitting. He was there to greet him. And he said, "Go get paid, get your stuff, and get out. And don't ever come back." Because when you worked back then, you got paid. If you didn't work, you didn't get paid.
Hmm.
So nobody was going to do what Mick Foley does and risk getting injured, not being able to work, not being able to get paid.
Hmm.
So they weren't doing any of that stuff. So was it great for the wrestling business? I think it was great for the fans. And I think he brought something, the hardcore thing to life in the WWE. But as far as the bar he set for other people to attempt stuff like that, I thought was horrible. It was
It
just,
was.
even Vince McMahon himself, um, the Hell in the Cell,
Hmm.
when he fell through the cage onto the canvas, even Vince and his teeth were coming through his top lip, and Vince looked at him and said, "Mick, great, unbelievable. Don't you ever effing do that ever again."
Right.
So even Vince had that old school mentality that, listen, you're taking too big of a risk.
Yeah.
You're taking too big of a risk.
Yeah.
Um,
But it
so
went
that's
away.
that's
It
my
went away with Vince, and he let him do everything he wanted to do.
Well, yeah, because shortly after that, they had that match, and I remember watching that as a young kid, and I had to turn it off. When The Rock hit him across the face like 15 times with a steel chair. Do you guys remember that? Paul, did you ever see that?
I don't
the only
know.
Oh.
thing I remember about that, the only thing I remember about that was Beyond the Mat. Was it called Beyond the Mat?
Yes.
And
Yeah.
listen, even if it was just for theater, he exposed his wife and his kids to that. They actually had to leave their seats
Yeah.
during that match because they were wailing and crying that hard.
Hmm. Yeah.
I mean, somebody's husband and father, they're taking, this isn't fake. They're
Hmm.
taking real blows.
Hmm.
You know what I mean? Listen, we did the best we could. Even me, when I worked with a chair the few times that I have, I've never used the flat portion of the chair.
Hmm.
I would wait for the guy to be down in the round top portion of the chair. I either jam him with it because I could control it better.
Yeah.
I could control it better. I would jab him with it, or I jab the round top part in his stomach because I could control it better and not hurt him. But these full blown whacks to your skull,
Yeah.
Well,
insane.
we talked about this just a few minutes earlier, before the illustrious one you came on the show, and I had thrown that in, and I was saying how it's because he has no wrestling ability. He can't rest. There's no wrestling when you watch any match you watch with Mick Foley. There's no wrestling involved.
It's true.
Well, that started off last night. Even though she trained Rob Van Dam, um, and I like to think Sabu had a lot to do with that too. But um, they said that about the Sheik. I mean, there was no wrestling. It was just a brawl.
Hmm. Yeah.
It was just a street brawl. He'd go in there with forks and screwdrivers and just cut you open, and glass and barbed wire. I mean,
But when we
they
brought him
worked.
to our show, he worked, he wrestled.
We're talking about the Sheik, the
Oh,
original Sheik.
oh, sorry.
Yeah, no, not the Iron Sheik, the original Sheik. Um, so they even did a match where the ropes were barbed wire,
Mhm.
and they wrapped material around it, put kerosene, and lit the ring on fire. And he
Yeah.
ended up getting third-degree burns over 20% of his body. So, my famous saying is, that's not wrestling.
No, it's not
Right.
wrestling. And me speaking as somebody who wasn't there with you guys in the golden era of pro wrestling, even as a fan, I was not able to watch ECW, right? I'm not nothing against any of these guys like Mick Foley and Sabu, but for me personally, I grew up old school watching you guys tell a decent story with athleticism, not gymnastics. I just think that that extreme style, you talk about like educating an audience, getting them accustomed to something. It's like a sin. Let's just use it in faith-based terms. It's a sin. Okay, a little one leads way for a bigger one and a bigger one and a bigger one. And so what they did with their audiences is they educated them. And I was mortified when I saw that Joey Janela Sabu match. I thought it was despicable that Joey Janela, a younger guy, who was fired from AEW a few years back, coincidentally, would allow a man who he was supposedly respected, a 60-year-old man, go through everything that Sabu did. Because, again, maybe it contributed to his early death. I don't know. A lot of impacts like that. Um, but like you,
It had to be mutual, though. I mean, you can't put it all on Joey because Sabu had to agree to it.
true, true. But was he
You
lulled
know,
into it? Was he said, hey, like, hey, man, you can still do it. You can still do it. You can still do
nah,
it.
I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't think he's that gullible. You know
Okay.
what I mean? I don't. I mean, could I be wrong? Of course, we could all be wrong.
Yeah.
I think again, it was what he does and what he shows the fan every time he goes out there,
Yeah.
and I don't think he could walk away from it.
Yeah.
Without it happening like that.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, I don't know. Listen, I like the guy. I didn't know that I wasn't didn't know that much about him. I met him a couple times, but again, gentleman to me.
Mhm.
So that
Yeah.
that bodes a lot.
Yeah, he was a nice guy. It was weird. It's kind of sad, bittersweet. I look back at a text message because I had spoken to Sabu a couple of times. He was actually going to join us on the podcast. I had spoken to him a few months back. Our good friend Rob Van Dam had put me in contact with him, and I'd spoken with him a few times, and we were trying to make it happen, trying to get his schedule. And I looked back at the text message the other day, and it was just kind of sad. He was always nice to
Yeah.
me, and the few times that
Well,
I
we
did
saw him in
speak to him.
Vegas.
Oh, you guys did see him? I didn't see
Yeah,
him when we were
yeah.
there.
He was in Vegas, and Roma, the guardian of chaos, Big Daddy, was kind enough to remind me on the autism ripoff show. He was also there.
Right. Well, that's the show I was speaking of. When he
Yeah,
wrestled in that show, it wasn't obviously because we run old school shows,
right.
right? We run wrestling events. We don't run, barbed wire and exploding boards and mortars and let's fire rockets. We don't do that. And when he came in, he wrestled.
Hmm.
So that's why I made that statement earlier. Well, he wrestled at our show. I've seen him wrestle. So I know the guy could wrestle.
Yeah.
I didn't think he had to go to, that extreme all the time. And especially as you got older, again, like you, well, not like you so much, but like me, like older people, your bones get brittle, man.
Hmm.
You're not as flexible.
Hmm.
The body can't take the abuse that it can as a young stud,
Hmm. Hmm.
and you think it can, and you want to believe that it can. I tell people this when I get in the ring at my wrestling school. My mind says I can do it, But then when I go to do it, the body's like, yeah, no, you're not up to speed there, buddy. You
Yeah.
know what I mean? It took me at least probably a good 15, probably a good 15 minutes. I was, when I walk up the ropes backwards, I run to the ropes and I jump and turn in the air.
Mhm.
I was getting my timing down. It probably took me like 15 minutes before I can do it
Yeah.
because I hadn't done it in since I left wrestling.
Yeah. Yeah.
I've trained my students to do it and I've showed them from the ground how to do it, but I've never, I can't say never, but I haven't gone in that long and tried it.
hmm Yeah.
So, again, the body says or the mind says you can do it, but the body is like, no, this isn't
hmm
for us anymore. We're
Yeah.
not 20. We're
Yeah.
not even 30.
Yeah.
Was he 60?
Speaking of students, the respect I have for Van Dam watching the Sheik dark side. Sheik trained him. This is for our students. He agreed to train him. He had him wash his car, cut his lawn, put the ring up, and tear it down every day without showing him even how to lock up.
Mm.
Just had him keep putting the ring up, tear it down, put it up, tear it down, put it up, tear it down, wash his car, do his
So he
laundry.
did a Mr. Miyagi on him or vice
Oh yeah,
versa.
he
Yeah.
did a big Miyagi on him.
Wax on,
Yeah,
wax off.
Yep.
wax on, wax off. He before he even showed him how to lock up. You imagine one person putting up the ring and tearing it down
I
every
couldn't
day,
imagine.
Yeah.
every day,
Yeah.
every day. That's what Van Dam had to do every
hmm
day.
We
hmm
wouldn't have any students.
Yeah. Not in this day and age.
Nope.
But Van Damme he is a consummate professional. I can't say enough good things about RVD. He's been good to us. We've been on a show with RVD way back.
I get
Um,
along with him. He's a
yeah.
gentleman. Every time I see him, it's all that matters to me
Yeah. He's a
is
true
the way
kind.
they respond. They greet me.
Mhm.
That's all that matters to me.
Yeah.
People could say what they want. I could contradict it or I can agree with it. But if I know the truth, I'm definitely contradicting it.
Yeah. But much like RVD, going back to Sabu, like you said, Paul, he didn't have to go to these extremes. He was technically sound. He had a good movement. He was good with psychology. He had a good look, and everything else. It's just strange how he ended up getting stuck in that extreme rut and he
It's in
just
his
couldn't.
blood. It's
Yeah.
in his blood.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's a drug. It's an addiction. It's in his blood.
hmm
He had to do it. It's like Flair. Flair can't walk away from the
That's
limelight.
true.
He needs wrestling to survive. Every day he wakes up, he's thinking of, how can I stay relevant in
hmm
the world of wrestling? And
Yeah.
speaking of staying relevant, you have Hulk Hogan,
Yep.
another one that
hmm
that won't give it up,
hmm
that can't walk away.
Yep. Coincidentally, now that you've brought up Hulk Hogan, unfortunately, last week you were unable to join us, Paul.
Oh,
Last week, Mario and I were joined by the likes of Pat Miletich and Frank Shamrock, UFC legends, the entire team at Shoot Pro Wrestling. And it's funny because Eric Bischoff and Hulk Hogan came out, two good friends of yours, Paul. They came out on a podcast last week claiming that their new American Shoot Pro Wrestling has never been done before. There's anything like it.
really?
Whereas, check this out, Paul. So I got a text message the other day. It's a photograph of Hulk Hogan with Matthew Granaham, one of our guests from last week, one of the influential members of Shoot Pro Wrestling, where they're having a conversation about it before Hogan and Bischoff came out with their idea. Something
Well,
to think about.
It wasn't Hogan or Bischoff's idea, was it?
That's what they're claiming. They're claiming that they watched other sports and then they came up with the idea.
I thought it was their money man that came up with it.
Well, we're getting fed multiple things
Okay.
from
All
us.
right. So let me say this, and I'll say it again next week when we have our two gentlemen on the show.
Yeah.
Um, they're blatant liars, the both of them.
There we go.
So let's get that cleared up right here and now. They couldn't think their way out of a paper bag. Neither one of them, let alone come up with something like this. They
Mm,
don't have the brain capacity, the knowledge to do something like that. I'll tell you right now, they're not thinkers.
mm,
That's not what they do. They're cons, is what they both are.
mm.
They're both cons. That's why they got a backer financially.
Yeah.
Where's all Hogan's millions and Bischoff, all the money they made, in their run.
Well,
They're
I,
both
I,
cons.
well, I asked that question too. A few months back when Brian Knobs was going through his health concerns, and we pray to God that he's through those now. But he was trying to raise $30,000 for surgery. Where was Hogan, his best
Yeah,
friend?
that's his best friend, right? One of his best friends,
Yeah, where was Hogan?
right? Exactly.
Yeah,
Where was he? You know where he is? Not my problem. You
yep,
want my money? You need my help? Not my problem. I don't even know who you are.
yep. It's crazy. Mario. I'm gonna drop a little what is it? A teaser here. You and I both know what's coming when we get our guest back on, Frank Shamrock, because we've been discussing this in the background. Ladies and gentlemen, I just want to let you know, watch this space because we're going to be making a big announcement with Mario Mancini, that man that you see at the bottom of your screen there, the celebrity right down there. Big announcement is coming up, and it involves Frank Shamrock. So just again, Powerplex that subscribe button because it's the only place you're going to find out what exactly we're talking about when it comes to fruition.
Oh, they're going to want to hear this.
Yeah.
They're
Uh,
definitely
so
going to want to
so
hear this.
so Amir, you went with that, huh?
Yes, I did.
Oh,
Did you expect anything else, Mario? Amir is
eh.
the biggest. Amir should be a chef. He stirs the pot, Mario. If you
Yeah.
haven't figured that out by now.
I
Yeah.
I was wrong. I really thought there was just you were going to be like, eh.
No, no, Mario, because I see the validity in it, and I see also the rectifying of his situation. Let's just leave it at that. That has been done to you unjustly or said about you unjustly. Let's
Yeah.
just
Well,
leave it
that
at that.
is that is the truth. That is the truth, and I'm not. I'm sure it's not personal, but as directly toward me, but it's about what I've done and what hundreds of other guys have done.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And like I said, you know what I mean, when I set my sights in 1980 when I was 14 years old, and I said, listen, I want to be a professional wrestler when I get older. And then 4 years later, I'm standing across looking at Greg Valentine. You know, myself, AJ Petrucci, Dave Barbie, and Seth Cohen, who worked as Robbie Parliament, were the first four people out of that wrestling school we started in October of '83. And Tony Altomar told us that, you do well, you work well, and you pay your dues. In about 5 years, you'll get a push. 5 years, I'll get a push. I'll get a push at 23 years old. I can live with that. That's great. That that push never came.
Mhm.
It would have if my dad didn't work in a bearing factory for 43 years and he was a professional wrestler in for Vince Senior, then I would have got a push. Two, if I was about 7 inches taller,
Mhm.
I probably would have got the push. And three, um, if I smoked a great sausage, I would have
Yep.
got I would have
Yep.
got the push.
Yeah.
I was 0 for 3.
Yeah.
And it wasn't as an 18-year-old kid, you got to remember something, what? 18 years and 6 weeks old after my first match, I come home and I'm laying in bed and I'm like, what did I just do? Oh my God. This is incredible. And um my second professional match, getting my nose broken by Schultz in two places, but still being where I was at eight, just turning 18 years old, I had a lot of hopes and dreams, and I had a lot of things going through my head. And then I met a guy like Paul Roma and said, "Listen, if you just keep that out of your mouth, I could probably try to help to push you away there. If you just put down those pancakes, I can help you." Um, you know,
Mm.
I, you know, I had a lot of
Such
hopes,
credit I get.
but you know what? But you know what though? It does make me mad though, because when and I know, in order for listen, it makes sense, doesn't it? In order for him to make it, and this is no knock on Mick Foley, but in order for him to make it, he was always fully clothed, right? Most of
Hmm.
the time. I don't know if he ever went to the gym in his life. At least I became a power lifter in '89. You know what I
Right.
mean?
Right.
So I don't know if he ever went to the gym in his life. So he didn't have the look,
Mm.
and he didn't have that. He didn't look like Roma. He didn't look like ordinary. So in order to make yourself marketable, he gave up his body
Hmm.
in order to make the money he made. And God bless him, he made millions, but he had to do something to make himself marketable. I could have done that.
Hmm.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
They could have done something with me to make me marketable. You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
it's like I had a lot of hopes and dreams,
Yeah, put a
and
red hat on you and call you Mario Brothers.
well, that's why I
Yeah.
proposed to Vince. I proposed that to Vince McMahon to make me Super Mario Mancini and put the hat on me and the tool belt, and I'd come out to the music. I was practicing at the school with guys. I was going to the top rope when there was a day in my life I could go to the top rope from the outside, holding on to every rope.
Hmm.
I've never claimed to climb the top rope like Paul Roma. I'd fall right on my face, man. I'd fall right on my face. So I'd climb to the top rope, I'd slam the guy. The guy would get up slow, and he would turn around, and I'd come off the top rope, and I'd spread my legs,
Hmm.
and I'd ass bump him on the chest, and I'd land on my feet, you know, and just like the video game.
Yeah.
And he didn't want to pay Nintendo.
Mm.
He'd have to pay Nintendo royalties. So
Right.
you know, my whole point is I had a lot of ideas. I had a lot of, I was so frustrated one time, and this is, God forgive me, I didn't know people were going to die in the ring in 1989. I didn't know people were going to lose their lives. So I don't mean any disrespect,
Mm.
but I went up to Strongbow and I said, "How about the first ring fatality? Just give me one big payoff. You've done everything else to me. Why don't you just do that? And
Mm.
I'll never show my face again."
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Um, so by me saying all this, the point I'm trying to make is I had all these hopes and dreams. Don't call me jabroni.
Mm-mm. No.
Right.
No.
Right.
Call me
Exactly.
jabroni?
Right.
Exactly. There's so many
What's wrong with
things.
you?
No, exactly. And again, it's right place, right time. You talked about Mick Foley there. Arguably his greatest persona was Mankind, and that was a Vince McMahon creation, right? That was not a Mick Foley creation. So again, I think anybody of any shape, size can become a successful character, but again, it depends on the heads of creative heads putting something good upon
Giving
that
you the
person.
push.
Yeah, and giving them
Yeah.
that push.
Listen, I got off a plane. We're in the car. We're driving to the arena, and all I hear about is this Cactus Jack dude. I'm like, who the hell is this Cactus Jack guy? And I hear about him. Oh, that's so and so. I'm like, what? Who? What? And we get into the building, and I went, I got to see who the hell this Cactus Jack dude is. And I expect to see obviously a cowboy dressed in a cowboy hat and spurs and the whole shebang.
Yeah.
And I see who it is, and I went, are you kidding me?
Mm.
That's the dude I spoke to who was ready to quit. And I told him to stick it out, not to quit, go to the gym, you know, work out, get in shape basically, but don't quit. And the next thing you know, here's this guy who was, I don't know, maybe at the time 100 and maybe it's 150 pounds, 170 maybe, I don't know,
Mhm.
somewhere's around there. Can't really recall that well. And now I see him and he's a much, and I'm being so kind, much heavier guy.
Mm-hmm.
He's a blevet,
Mm-hmm.
okay? Um, and I realized that that's who it was, that guy that I had that conversation with, who walked up to me and said, I can't do this anymore. I got to quit because they're not doing anything with me.
Yeah.
And I was the one who told him to stick to it and just go to the gym and just, stay at it. Don't give it up.
Yeah.
I didn't want to see anybody give up.
Yeah.
It's just, the attitude I had. And like I said, the next thing you know, this guy pounded about 900 pizzas and he was this
Cactus
other
Jack.
guy.
Yep, yep. It's amazing how the little things that you say, you've been involved with so many careers. But Paul, before we wrap this show up today, Mario as well, you brought up Ric Flair. We can't let him get away with it scot-free. Mr. Joe Rogan status, baby. I was just gonna say, you said he reinvented himself. He can't stay out of the limelight. Have you guys seen the rap video that Ric Flair was in? Have you seen that? He was in a rap video.
Did he have
Yeah.
a pinkish silver suit on?
Some very strange suit he had on with like necklaces, all like Mr. T. He had a bunch of necklaces around. Anyway,
My
I
God.
just wanted to give our shout out to the Nature Boy, Mr. Joe Rogan status himself. As always, Mario, you're about
You
to
know
say,
what's sad about Ric Flair?
yeah.
If he didn't believe his own hype,
Mhm.
I mean, if you really sit down with the guy, if you sat down with him and started going, "Hey, Rick, remember your run with Steamboat? And, how'd you feel during that? And remember you and Dusty? Remember Dusty? He'll sit there and start crying like a
Mhm.
4-year-old
Mhm. Mhm.
because he misses the glory days and he misses the love he has for professional wrestling there's no doubt about it. And he would be a great guy if he just stuck with that, if he just didn't believe his own hype.
Yep.
Believing his own hype is
Yeah.
what makes him a,
Listen,
things that
I'm
things
gonna
that we
leave
can't
our
stay on YouTube. You can't
I'm
say on
gonna leave our
YouTube.
fans with this.
Yeah.
I'm gonna leave our fans with this, okay? If when he passes and he's in front of those gates, I expect nothing less than him asking God to bow down to him because he is the greatest ever.
Oh my God.
Not God,
Yeah.
him. He is
Yeah.
the greatest ever. God is second to him in his mind.
Wow.
There's no doubt in my mind that that's exactly how it would transpire. How it would go down
Yeah.
is
I
like
have a
that.
I have a different scenario in my head.
What is it, Mario?
Him getting to the gates and St. Peter going, "Woo!"
Woo!
We have a few things we need to discuss, Richard.
Yeah, yeah.
That's what
I think I agree with you wholeheartedly. I think that's an astute observation of what's possibly going to happen. You mentioned a couple other things. I want to bring it up next time. Of course, you mentioned Tony Atlas, the dark side of the ring. I did happen to catch that one. Mario, do your Tony Atlas for us, please.
Oh, there's so much. You know, I watched that last night and I was like, and my daughter said it the best when she was younger. It might have been 10 years ago. And I'm sitting there watching and like wrestling stuff. And she goes, I wonder how it feels to look through the TV and you know who you're looking at. What's that feel like? I go, I never thought of it. I guess it's a little weird,
Mhm.
you know? So, I'm watching Tony last night and Tony was good. He wasn't uh he 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 admitted a lot of things um that he's not oblivious of.
Mhm.
That he's got a problem talking and he's got a and for I've known him for 41 years and we're close. And I never knew he got his head split open like that. He's never told me that story.
Yeah.
Um, but you know, he he really brought it, and it wasn't that kind of Tony where he's just telling war stories. I mean, he brought it. It was a really good episode.
Yeah.
But you know, he was just, I like the story. Dick Murdoch was a member of the KKK,
Hmm.
and they gave Tony a pamphlet,
Yeah.
and he said, "Show up here." And Tony's like, I just took it and put it. But I didn't read it because I can't, reading stuff like that. I can't really. So we pulled up and hoods. They Wildfire said T duck. They had a shotgun. T duck. You turn that car around. Brother, we got the hell out of there, brother. So it like he and he and Rocky didn't get along. Um, and he admitted that they were gonna really, he said that they were gonna make him the heavyweight champion. And the story I got was they were gonna make he and SD the tag team champions.
Yeah.
And that was SD's time. And this girl from California said, I got these great loafers. And Tony went, hell, I'm going to California.
Yeah.
They'll walk all over me.
Yeah.
So but they ended up taking him back, and Pat pulled my preco.
Yep.
So
Incredible story, man.
I listen,
Yeah.
I love Tony Atlas. He's a good guy. He admitted everything. I mean, he was making a lot of money, and he said it. He said, listen, they took me out of bodybuilding. They paid me to train. A lot of guys were angry because guys don't get paid to train,
Yeah.
but they paid him to train. He was a prospect. They paid him.
Yeah.
And they brought him in and they started paying him heavy money. And he was like, he bought a Lincoln Continental, and he bought so many things with that money. And he just kept going, and he wouldn't stop.
Yeah.
He wouldn't stop. So and he admitted to all the drug use and everything. And he even admitted about himself. He said, no, 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 no. Tony getting hard. No. Tony having sex. No. But Tony like feet. No. It's just the shoes. It's just the shoes. He
Yeah.
says everybody made up a lot of stories about him. He goes, it's just the shoes. It was a really good episode. He was homeless for about a year and a half,
Mm.
and he slept on a park bench in Maine during the snow. Monica walked up, said, it's 20 below out here. You're gonna die. He goes, I want to.
Mm.
I'm waiting to. He'd walk in front of cars, hoping that it would hit him.
Mm.
Um, he just fell off the bench. He was face down in the mud. And he said, he goes, the worst part about all this stuff is not only was I homeless, but everybody knew me.
Mhm.
And there I was, homeless, eating out of a garbage can, and people knew that was Tony Atlas doing that.
Yeah.
And
And
nobody lifted a finger to help him.
nobody lifted a finger to help him, man. That's what broke my heart. But Monica came along,
Mm.
and she left him that night, came back the next day and said, why don't you just come to my house? And that's when, after a while, Vince called him back for Saba Simba,
Mm.
and Monica started crying and said, well, you're going to leave me now because you're going back to your life and you're going to make money. And
Yeah.
he put two rings on, one ring on his finger and one ring on hers, and said, we're married. I'm not,
Mhm.
that's not going to happen.
Yeah.
And what really touched me about that whole thing, the one thing that choked me up about that whole thing wasn't even Atlas talking. It was Roddy Piper.
Mm.
Roddy Piper was angry when Atlas came in as Saba Simba because that was an insult.
Mhm.
That was an
Of
insult
course
to
it
Tony.
was.
It
Yeah.
was
Of course it
insult
was an insult.
an
Yeah.
insult to Tony Atlas. It was an insult to African Americans,
Right.
and Piper knew it.
Mhm.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but Tony
So
needed the money. He wasn't going to turn it down.
right,
Mhm.
so when he came down the aisle, Vince tried to sell it, and he goes, "Wow, who's this guy? It's Saba Simba." And Roddy Piper goes, "That's not Saba Simba. That's Tony Atlas."
Mhm. He said that on on the air. I have to go back
He
and check.
goes, "That's Tony Atlas."
Yeah.
And I
Yeah, well,
said,
don't forget, TVs were taped.
Right.
"Yeah,
Yeah. No, one of the things that really struck me before we wrap this up was the fact that Tony is loyal to his wife. You know, his wife now is in a convalescent home, and he goes there and he cares for her and stuff like that. And you saw the genuineness about him. You know, he really loves that woman, and I think that's a testament for anybody. So I'm glad we left it on that high. The story of
Yep.
a redemption there. But Paul, Mario, I know that both of you have got a show tonight, so we're going to pull this one to a close. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for taking a little bit of your time and sharing it with us today. Again, make sure you subscribe. We are the Masters of Wrestling on YouTube. Make sure you subscribe, hit the like, share with your friends and family.
Yeah. Hit that subscribe button, show the love.
Yep. And also go over and check us out on TikTok. Paul, what's your TikTok account? Do you have it memorized yet?
I don't have it memorized. Mario has it memorized, don't you, Mario?
all you have to do is go on TikTok and if you don't know the numbers, at least put in Paul Roma. But I could tell you right now that it is
Here it goes.
Bear with us, ladies and gentlemen.
Here we
bear
Drum
go.
with
roll.
us.
Drum
Drum
It
roll.
roll. Drum
is
roll.
drum roll, please. Wow. It is Paul. Wait, where'd it go?
It's a mystery, everybody.
Well, you type in if you type in Paul Roma, it's gonna come up. It's funny because I can pull it up anytime, and now that I want to pull it up right now, I don't know why this thing's uh giving me fits. Oh, I know why.
Why is that?
Because it's not Paul Roma, it's Roma.
Oh,
And if you go on TikTok, it's Roma 63589.
got it. Okay, so you said that slow enough for everybody. Make sure you go over and follow Paul there. He's got other content on there, and likewise Mario too. Mario, what's your handle?
It's Mario Mancini WWF, but I got to tell the fans, we've been delaying. We're going to do it in probably the next week, which is going to be very interesting because we are going to set up wrestling with Roma. And if you ever think you want to be a pro wrestler, well, you can get a taste of it because he'll go over something different every post TikTok post. He'll go over some whether it's a headlock or a hammerlock or drop kick or whatever. Not only is you can go on Roma's personal TikTok, but he's also going to have one that's called Wrestling with Roma.
There you go. All right, ladies and gentlemen, Wrestling
Yes.
with Roma. You want to learn from the best? That's where you go and find that information right there on TikTok. All right. Okay. And until next time, everybody, Paul, God bless you, sir.
You also, Mario?
Mario.
God bless. I'll see you Roma about 8:30. I'm gonna pop my head in.
Oh, yeah, I'll be down there for 7.
All
Yeah, be
right.
down there for 7, and Nick went to the bank for a lot of 5s because you're gonna need them.
Okay.
Okay. Privy special information for our viewers there. Until next time, everybody, join us next week right here on Power and Glory.